And welcome to Brainstorming America. Ken Rollins here. We're here with John Merrill. Good to see you, John.
Thank you, Ken.
Good. Where you been?
Well, I've been all over, as you
There's
know.
a song wrote about you. I've been everywhere, man.
Keep sharing the word.
Well, it's good to see you again. Let's go right into some things. On the show last week, we was talking about our Senator Tuberville and
the great work he's doing for us in Washington.
And the bill that he's holding on to because it's legal. He's trying to keep it legal, that we don't use any of our tax dollars to pay for abortions, and he is in the right, everybody else is in the wrong. Anyhow, we didn't talk about something on that show that is also, I mentioned in the diversity, that the military has gone woke. They are also trying to get in that bill money to pay for transgender surgery. That we as taxpayers would pay for. Our military came in as Joe, now he's Joanna. In our military, how does that work when?
Poorly.
I'm trying to figure out. I was in the military nearly 10 years, and I can't imagine the guys being guys one day and then a female the next day.
Well, even more than that, Ken, there have been some conversations that there are certain people or groups of people who've joined the armed forces just to have the opportunity to have that transgender operation so they can be debt-free related to what it might cost them if they had to pony up with those resources that are necessary to have that reconstructive surgery. And that's a real problem that needs attention in a real way in Washington, D.C. by our elected officials. The fact that the military would even consider paying that cost is really a major problem in leadership in the armed forces in every division. It doesn't matter which one of the 6 divisions we're talking about, they have got to make sure they're stopping that woke action and woke activity, because the number one reason for the military is to defend our country. It's not to provide health care for the people that are in the service. It's not to provide retirement for the people that are in the service. It's to make sure that the people that are in the service are trained in order to protect all of us and to protect the integrity, the character, and the future of the Republic.
Yeah, well, it confuses me to figure out how, as a sergeant, I would have so many people over here, but they had certain jobs that we would have never put a female in. They just certain, I don't care what you want to call it, but now you would be just like with the baseball and the soccer games, stuff like that, where you're going to put men in the same locker room as you would females. It would just break up the cohesion of a military unit. I just can't. And that's not like the guys down at the YMCA. This is a military unit. They're paid killers that are supposed to be able to protect this country in a time of war. And you're going out there to put some wokeism into that. And that, to me, is scary. You got to know that countries that don't allow that, like China, will cut your head off, and they're looking and they're laughing and they're watching us, and I don't like what I see.
It's a major embarrassment for the nation as a whole, Ken.
Absolutely. Also,
and you would hope and think that a good Auburn man like Lloyd Austin is, who is the Secretary of Defense and a military man by training, would be wise enough, smart enough, and astute enough to push back against that wokeism.
But you've seen who Biden's got in his cabinet, the crazy guy that was stealing the luggage and all that stuff, transgender and all that stuff, how the wokeism has took over the Biden thing. And you got to think, do I want my stars? Do I want these stars to go on up here, my 4 stars, or I want to end up in a office job to retire in? So Austin is marching to the orders of the administration.
No doubt.
And So I watched some of the questioning that's going on. That is to be paying for transgender surgery for our military. That's what the fight is. And you folks out there that are watching us, you're taxpayers. You're going to pay for this. Everything they're doing like that. It's
and you need to make sure that you are calling our congressmen and you are calling our United States senators, and you're letting them know that you want them to take a stand on this particular issue. You want to make sure that your voice is heard. Call Mike Rogers' office at 202-225-3261 and let him know that you support him in the effort to push back against this. Mike Rogers is one of the strongest members of Congress in the history of the state of Alabama. He is the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, the first Alabamian in the history of our state to chair armed services. Let him know that you support him in this issue and that you're going to continue to make sure that he knows that you want him to represent you in Washington. You call Senator Tuberville's office. You make sure that he knows. 202-224-5744. Make sure that they know that you're supporting them and the stand that they're taking.
Absolutely. I knew that number too.
Yes,
no,
sir.
I didn't. I never dialed that number. But it's just funny you saying that about Mike Rogers.
Yes, sir.
We were talking about Glenn Browder earlier.
Yes, sir.
Both of them had the same position.
That's right.
So we got to get two good people that we talked about today.
No doubt about it. And there was a good man in between them, and that was Governor Bob Riley. And we're going to talk more about some other good men and some other issues that are important to you when we return for the second segment of this week's episode of Brainstorming America. Thanks for joining us.
And welcome back to Brainstorming America. Ken Rollins, and we are here with John Merrill. And John, when we went to break, we were talking about some of the military stuff of the transgender surgery and things like that. But one of the things that hit me is the president right now, he had some emergency funds during the pandemic. He still today, as you're sitting there at home in Piedmont and Elfland and all the other places, he's still spending that money in the millions for pet projects using that emergency funds that we appropriated for emergencies. He's still using it for, he's using stuff like that. He was going to use it to pay off these school loans. And we're allowing that to happen. So you were over the voting in Alabama.
Yes, sir.
Everybody that's watching this, you've got kin folks that y'all need to make sure that you influence other people and tell them what we're telling you, because we're telling you the bare facts about what is happening to your tax dollars, and that's not a good thing.
It's not. But if we push back by reaching our members of Congress and our two United States senators and letting them know where we stand on these issues, you call those offices, you express your concern, believe me, they register your comments and they share them with a member, they share them with the staff. They let people know that we've had so many calls on this particular topic, on this particular issue. And that's one of the ways that they determine what kind of position they're going to take. So don't be afraid to have your voice heard.
But if you can imagine, we just came out of this pandemic about 15 minutes ago. It seemed to me like so fresh in my mind how we got $1,200 a piece they sent to people. All the things that happen under the emergency, just like they do during a tornado or a hurricane. Biden is manipulating our funds because he's using that word emergency, still using the pandemic. It's like we had a hurricane come through, Katrina, and he's still using funds. It's to me, it's just the same as if you use hurricane money to do whatever. And I was going to say something about a governor did stuff with the FEMA money one time, but I won't get into that. But that's something that you, as a taxpayer watching this show, like John's talking about, call your Congress, get involved. That's what they got a number there. You won't talk to Mike Rogers probably, but he's got people that handle Social Security stuff. He got Lady Margaret that handles all veterans things. He's got somebody that handles whatever it is that you're calling about. So use that phone, make them call like John's talking about. I mentioned earlier about the cocaine in the White House. I got to hear the topic because
I noticed you said that as you wiped your nose.
I did. That's blow. That's what they call it. I used to manage George Jones, and he called it toot. I never figured out why, but the cocaine was toot. And I go to Wayland and get it. Wayland had a toot. I had a touch of heroin in it. And going on the plane, I had on a Winston racing jacket, had a pocket in the side. Just as we start to get in the aircraft, George just stuffed a bag of cocaine in my pocket. They ain't gonna be thinking about you got it. They know I got it. They ain't gonna be looking at it. So I'm sitting on that plane. I said, Lord, don't let that fall out of my pocket. Don't let. I'm sitting on this plane all the way to Dallas, afraid to move, afraid I'm gonna drop a bag of $1,000 worth of cocaine on the floor. I get up and I got to hold my hand against it to make sure. And I'm a drug dealer. I'm a mule. And because George knew he knew that there wouldn't be no fuss, because there's the people taking your ticket. And I ain't gonna be arguing about it. You take your cocaine back, And so I get on the plane. I'm the one carrying the cocaine, and so this cocaine stuff. I want you folks to look at it. Forget it's cocaine. Think of anthrax. Think about the next president. Think about if they allow this to go, if they don't put cameras on there now, everybody knows. If you was going to take some cocaine in the White House, where would you put it? You'd find a cubby, wouldn't you?
Sounds like
where
it.
you put your cell phone.
That's right.
So they've told the bad guys, and I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about they have visitors come from all over. So just think about that. I watched your climate czar, John Kerry, the other day. That is a dangerous man for this country. I'm serious. He was a so-called Vietnam veteran, and he was dangerous there. But what he's doing with these countries, China, is making deals with China, and you can't even see China. The climate is so bad there. They're building a new coal plant as we see here. Probably built one already. So them and India and all these places, the worst climate people in the world, and he's over and making deals with them. And they're not taking anything out of the ozone. They're putting more in it. And we're taking it out, and they're putting more in it.
But Ken, look, I'm tired of people talking about climate change, because one of the things that we need to understand is unless you can influence the way the climate is, why are you asking people to pay for these different things related to the climate? I mean, one of the simplest things in the weather is rain. Everybody understands rain, understands condensation, understands what it takes to get the raindrops to come down. But I don't know anybody that can make it rain. Now, when you can make it rain, then you let me know, and when you can make it rain, we'll start talking about climate change. But until then, think about what you're going to do between now and the time that we return during this break. We'll see you back in just a minute.
And welcome back to Brainstorming America. I'm here with John Merrill, and we're talking about things that affect you. And you can thank us later, but we're going to talk about the middle, the top, and from the middle out, Joe Biden says, we're going to talk about the whole thing so you understand what the subject's about. Not just topic, but the entire thing. John, I know you work for an engineering company called Wagner. When they advise cities, right?
Absolutely.
Do y'all advise cities on their environmental situations?
Well, actually,
stormwater and
yes, sir.
things like
We work with cities on all kinds of different things, but we also work with counties. So we want a presence in all 67 counties and all 464 municipalities, and as many independent utilities as there are located inside those cities and counties throughout the state of Alabama. But we do specialize in stormwater, wastewater, and water treatment facilities. We also want to make sure that whenever there are storms and storm recovery efforts, that we are helping those communities recover when those efforts are necessary. But we are a civil engineering firm that specializes not only in those things related to water, but also water and sewer, stormwater, and road, bridge, design, development, construction, long-range planning, as well as all the other things related to civil engineering work.
And that lady up in White Plains is sitting there watching us and saying, why would environmental, I be interested in that? The reason is, in these cities and counties, that you have a parking lot or any place where oil might be dripping that makes its way into your storm drains, that makes its way to your creeks. You got a thing called, in Alabama, ADEM, Alabama Department of Environmental Management. The same as EPA. They will fine you. So if you got a city out there that's thriving, but you got oil or other chemical being discharged into the storm drain, you risk a huge, up in the millions of dollars in fines. That takes away all that revenue you took in from retail tax, going out in fines.
There's no doubt
So
about it. And
yeah.
you know, you really said something and you meant something and you said something and meant something else, which is they will fine you, F-I-N-D, and they will fine you, F-I-N-E,
Yeah.
to make sure that you're paying whenever
Right.
you do something like this. And we have illustrations in our office that can show an individual that one drop of rain comes down and hits the pavement out here at the Quintard Mall, and then where that water goes and how it runs off and where it goes into a particular creek and how it gets into the water here in Oxford, Alabama. And we have to make sure that we're protecting the environment and that we're doing so in a conservative way. And I don't mean conservative as opposed to conservative and liberal philosophies with Democrats and Republicans. I'm talking about in a conservative way that preserves, in a conservation way, the natural resources that we have, so that we are protecting our environment, we're protecting the future for the people who live here today and for our posterity, for those that will come after us, so that we are leaving our community and our area better than we inherited it.
And one drop of oil looks like the Exxon Valdez when it rains. That was my job at Anastasia Depot. As a matter of fact, the stormwater plan for Anastasia Depot was written by me and one other guy. And it's all about, you take the cars and you say, oh, these cars don't get okay, you got transmission fluid, you got power steering fluid, and you got oil, and you got gasoline. And all of those leak and accumulate. You put 100 cars in a park, you really got something. And by the laws I had to abide by, it says it must be a sample taken at an outfall going into the creek during a significant rain event. Can't be just sprinkling, it's got to be a huge rain. Well, boy, when that stuff goes in there, you start looking at the outfall, and it looks bad, and it hits your creek. And the cities, and I went to, Robert Kennedy Jr. was running against Biden. Me and him had a one-on-one. He's over, that's all they do. The company he's over, they just go around suing people. They'll sue us if you got a violation, like the city of Hoover has got a violation for dumping something in a creek by accident. ADM will know about it, and then ADM has a choice whether to fine or not fine. They come in and they fine if you violated. Robert Kennedy Jr.'s company, they just go collect fines all over the United States. And I'm saying it to you because the people that you're representing, sometimes they don't realize till it happens and then it's too late. But just a little bit of oil from a parking lot like it. You go to our exchange down here.
Absolutely.
200 cars out there, 200 drips. Put that in the jug and see what you got up in the creek. And so they gotta pay attention to things to prevent that, because a $200,000, $500,000 fine will pay for a good engineer, somebody to represent them to come in, say, y'all need to take care of this Hoover.
That's exactly right. And lawsuits will follow if you don't make sure that you're doing exactly what you need to do to protect the environment the way that you inherited, whether it's through the Department of Environmental Management in Montgomery or the Environmental Protection Agency in Washington, D.C.
And you don't want either one of them. And so you just tell them to call me when they get down there to trouble, because I've been there and done that, as Eli used to say. Okay, I don't know how much time we got left now. I want to get into, so I think, just guessing by my watch, we got about 1:30, like that.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, I saw we got another surge at the border coming. It's probably a long subject, but I saw from Venezuela, I think 1,000-something people are lined up at our border today as we tape this, and we're taping back in December. No, I'm just kidding. It's so cold outside, ain't it? But anyhow, there's 1,000-something people coming from Venezuela, just that one country.
Right.
And they're coming through a lot of countries on their way here.
That's right.
Nobody bothers them. They just helping them along, give them some water, let them use the bathroom. This is a shame. And I heard today the Congress is talking about the wall. So people are trying to revise that. The wall is laying there, already paid for it. It's laying there, rusting away. And all they need to do is let them put it up.
Well, and we've got to talk more about the wall. We've got to talk more about the issues that are very important to you. That's why we want to continue to hear from you each and every week. We're so thankful that you choose to spend a little bit of your time with us each and every week. Let us know how you feel about those things, and we'll look forward to joining you again next week for the 25th episode of Brainstorming America.